are fake news, Donald Trump said to Jim Acosta of CNN when Mr. Acosta tried to ask a question during the president-elect's press conference.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you say
She's asking
categorically,
a question.
Mr. President-elect, can you give us a question?
be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be.
Can you
No,
give
I'm
us a
not gonna give you
question?
I'm not going to give you a
can
question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
Go ahead.
can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not
Go ahead.
appropriate.
So what is really fake news? Has the term really lost its meaning? According to an article by the Washington Post, fake news is deliberately constructed lies in the form of news articles meant to mislead the public. For example, the news falsely claiming that Pope Francis had endorsed Donald Trump, or the one that alleging without bias that Hillary Clinton will be indicted just before the election. So let's end the speculation and find out what really is fake news. To help us better understand this term is Uduak Oduak, a fashion and entertainment lawyer, speaker, author, and journalist. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on your show, and thanks for inviting me. I feel honored.
I could have.
The OB
there was no
show.
better person to get on this show for this topic but you. And when you came to mind, I said I need to jump on it right away. So happy New Year, and once again,
Happy New Year.
welcome. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I describe myself as one who is not boxed. There is no box for me, but at the heart of it, I'm a storyteller. And the way my storytelling manifests itself is through law as a tool of storytelling, through media as a tool of storytelling, and advocacy, speaking as a tool of storytelling. That's how I describe myself, a storyteller manifested through speaking, advocacy, and writing.
Okay, awesome. Now, how did you get into writing and publishing? I know your background is in law. I mean, they're connected, but
Yes,
I know you do have the Lady Brill magazine, which is awesome, that you run,
Thank
and
you.
the website. So how did
Thank
you really
you.
get into that?
Well, let's see. Let me start off with writing. I've always written my whole entire life. It was a way of expressing myself. I was journaling when I was a kid. I still journal. And I got my degree in communications. So I've always known that somehow, somewhere, me and communicating and writing was all part of it. And grad school, I was still writing. But I think the key point, the main thing that happened, shout out to David Lee, who is the owner of Destination Luxury. So I was modeling. My background is modeling as well. So I was modeling at a show in San Francisco for an awesome, amazing designer, Colleen Gwen Couture.
Nice.
And I think it was Colleen Gwen for that particular show. And there were lots of different designers.
Okay.
David Lee approached me in San Francisco and he said, "Hey, you're a lawyer, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, lawyers are good writers. Would you like to write for me?" And I said, "Sure. What's your publication?" It's a fashion publication, which I'm extremely passionate about. My practice is where you're catching me now for my law firm. Part of my practice is fashion and entertainment law. So he told me, "Well, lawyers are great writers. Why don't you consider writing for us?" And I said, "Sure, let's make it happen." So that's exactly what we did. I wrote an article about the emergence of San Francisco Fashion Week, and San Francisco not necessarily being on the global fashion map or even the national fashion map at the time. And when I wrote it, that article went viral. And you have to understand this was before the social networks and everything else.
Right.
It was about 2004.
Wow.
But the hits on the site and everything else was so amazing. I got 5 different offers
Wow.
to come write and also to be an editor for some. I ended up choosing to be an editor for that particular publication.
Okay.
And then also went on to write for so many different national and international publications. And then my articles got syndicated everywhere.
Wow.
I'm one of the few journalists that had the privilege of interviewing and writing a very interesting story about the late Alexander McQueen. So
Right.
that's really where it started.
Okay. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. You are beyond multifaceted. You do it all. And
You too. Hello, Miss Producer.
segue into what we're here to discuss today, which is about fake news. And with your background in communications and law, can you give us a little bit of background about what, in your opinion, what fake news really is and why it's making so much headlines these days?
Okay, so what is fake news, right? That's
Yes.
what we all
Yes.
want to know. I think The definition is pretty clear. It's fake. That means it's false.
Right.
It's not true.
Yeah.
And not only is it false and not true, sometimes and many times it has a very malicious element to it. And the people who promulgate the false news do so they can get those clickbaits.
Right.
Have people click through,
Right.
drive traffic, which ultimately drives sales. And you drive sales through advertising on the websites or platforms, and you have more visibility. So that essentially is what fake news is about. Why is it popular these days? Based on the second prong of your question that you asked.
Yeah.
Several reasons. I think number one goes back to that whole clickbait. I mean, the way we're consuming news and creating news is all about sensation or sensationalizing news and overstimulating our brain. In the day and age of technology, we're constantly on our mobile phones, and the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
We need to be constantly stimulated. And it doesn't help that platforms like Facebook and Google, but particularly Facebook, that now control practically a big part of our lives, right? Constantly are changing for publishers like myself, you, and other publishers out there, constantly changing the algorithm of how people consume news now. So quality content sometimes get lost in the mix.
Exactly.
So when you have that, people are going to do what they need to do to get your eyeballs.
Right.
And drive traffic to their sites, which ultimately affects their bottom line.
Exactly.
So there's that incentive. The second one is Facebook has been blamed primarily with the whole Donald Trump election, that they were instrumental in having and handing the election to Donald Trump because of the propagation of or virality of fake news on their platform.
Yeah.
So that has brought the whole fake news issue front and center. And we're asking both policy questions, we're asking both legal questions, and we're just asking in general, what is the obligation of the publisher?
Right.
What is the obligation of the news aggregator, or an aggregator like Facebook to some extent?
Right.
And then what is the obligation of the consumers in making sure we don't have fake news out there?
What advice would you give to spot fake news? How easy is it to spot fake news? I mean, they're all over the place, and it's kind of, even for journalists too. It's easy to get clicked into it and not really doing your research. So for the general public, any advice on how to spot fake news?
Well, I know once, I remember when it happened, I was the quote unquote, I guess you would call it, the victim of fake news. And I was actually surprised. It was some news about a celebrity being dead. It was a hoax. And I saw it on my main page, and I was just like so overwhelmed with emotion. I checked a few platforms through Google, and it seemed like the news was everywhere, but it wasn't the major news networks that I was familiar with.
Right.
And I just was so heartbroken, and I just retweeted or reshared that. It turns out it was a fake news, and I thought, oh my God, how terrible. I mean, I'd heard other hoaxes in the past, but never paid attention to it until on Facebook I had that experience.
Right.
So how do you spot fake news? After that, I defaulted back to what I generally do. Number one, don't be reactionary.
Okay.
Number two, chase and trace the source. Where is it coming from? Number three, look to see whether other prominent and credible media outlets are carrying that news.
Exactly.
If they're not carrying that news, there's a high probability that it is fake. Number four, when you're chasing and tracing the source, look at the URLs. So one of the things I'm noticing with the URLs, you have, for example, .com, .co, .com, .something else.
Right.
And that's sometimes an indication of fake news. I would also say I'm very visual oriented from a fashion background, of course. So look at the visibility of the websites too. Sometimes it's tacky. You look at the copyrighted statement in the footer area, you'll see that it's copyrighted 2008.
Right.
The site visibility is all messed up. There's just a bunch of junk over there.
Right.
Including so many ads that overwhelm the content. So those are some tips to look at when you're trying to track fake news.
Well, we live in a fast-paced world. Like, everything you listed is great, and I'm gonna take some of those tips as well. But if somebody's in a hurry, they don't have time to cross-check all of that. I mean, it comes down to really doing your research and taking your time to make sure it's not fake.
But the things I listed don't take much time at
It
all.
doesn't. It
It
doesn't.
it takes more time to go do extensive research than for
Yeah.
you to Google and see. Let's say they said a celebrity is dead.
Right.
It takes less than a minute to Google that and see
Right.
whether CNN or MSNBC or some of the other popular, credible platforms
Websites.
or allegedly credible platforms, because they've also been victims, and some of them too have
Yes.
had really terrible, fake and misleading information as well, which can constitute fake news,
Right.
out there. So it takes less than a minute to Google that and find that information out.
Right.
You save time, and remember, when you retweet, republish, share, that has a viral effect.
Yeah.
And the same
Yeah.
reaction I was having of just feeling so emotionally overwhelmed because of a particular celebrity that I felt an emotional attachment to, I was informed through this fake news on Facebook that that person was dead. Well, if I have that kind of reaction, if you have that kind of reaction, then you're having the same effect on other people. So a little minute
Yeah.
to make sure this is the real news won't hurt you. That way you don't have everybody having the same emotional,
Exactly. So pretty much we need to
catastrophic
take
effect.
responsibility with
Absolutely.
what we share, what we
Absolutely.
consume at the end of the
Absolutely.
day. Right.
Absolutely.
So, advice to journalists, it doesn't matter what background. What advice would you give them when it comes to, what they publish and the stories they tell? Does it go back to going back to the drawing board? Like, okay, you have to do your research now. If you're a journalist, you really have to make sure that you're putting out good information out there. So, what advice do you have for journalists?
I think it's interesting. I have a minor in philosophy, so I tend to pontificate sometimes. I
Okay.
think the question is, how do we define journalism in the 21st century? That's the
Okay.
first thing.
Okay.
I think the second thing beyond defining journalism is, what is the role of citizen journalism
Exactly.
in at play?
Right.
And then the third part is the commercialization and the bottom line of how media brands are making their money today. As much as we want quality content, is quality content selling? Is it trash selling or not? Take, for example, the recent case of Medium. I don't know if you saw that news with Medium. They're going to completely restructure their brand. So Medium was a platform that was very interested in, let's get quality content, not the quick clickbaits
Right.
and all that stuff, and
Right.
then let's see where that goes. But in the long run, they're saying they're restructuring because they really want to stay consistent with that ethos of
Right.
quality news out there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, are they really making money?
Right. Right.
So I think that's the challenge. That's the challenge for journalists. Of course, let me put it this way. What you learn in journalism school, what you learn in communication school is
Yeah.
different from what the reality is.
Exactly.
So you must be fluid.
Yeah.
You should have integrity in how you create and disseminate news.
Right. What should we expect from you?
Ooh. Oh, next question.
17.
What should you expect? Well, 2017, fingers crossed, by God's grace, my book will be published, the first ever music law book for the Nigerian music market. But anyone interested in breaking into the Nigerian music market, or if you're an artist on the continent interested in breaking into the US market, it's literally a side by side compare and contrast on how the industry works over there, how it works over here. It's not been done before. It's very comprehensive, very detailed. There's also a chapter on women. Certainly, I can't write a book without having a focus on women issues in the entertainment industry. And there's coverage on intellectual property, trademarks, copyrights, registration, the whole nine yards, both in the US and as well as Nigeria. And so it's very informative, great for market research for investors looking to invest in Nigeria and other parts of Africa, and definitely relevant to the artists and also other industry stakeholders. So fingers crossed, that's my priority for 2017. After that, I'm coming to a TV next to you, or next
Nice.
right in your face, because I'm very interested in telling my story and other stories, but through a legal platform. So
Okay.
courtroom drama really appeals to me, and I want to be able to bring that
Wow.
to a big screen. So
Nice.
that's the goal. Pray for
That's
me and keep me in your prayers.
you are in our prayers, and that is a lot. But knowing you, I know you will pull it off.
We'll take our time, but we'll roll it out.
Yeah.
However long it takes, it will happen.
It will happen. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for taking the time
Thank
out
you. And you
from your
look so
busy
gorgeous. I'm
schedule. Thank
loving the
you.
colors and the scarf and the you look amazing.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. And thank you for, like I said, taking out time from your busy schedule to be on the show. You came to mind. I'm like, okay, let me reach out to her. And you responded. So
Absolutely. Anything for Obi, I try, as you know, for a long time now, supporting your work. I want to see you just transcend and smash goals and just kill it in media and broadcasting because I believe you're very talented and I've watched you over time. I just want to be a part of your success story. So it's a pleasure to be here today.
thank you. Thank you so much. And to our viewers, how can they find you? Your, email, Twitter, anybody that wants you for speaking engagement, please, the platform is yours.
Sure. If you want to find me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is @Uduak at UDUAK Law. If you want to find me anywhere else, you can actually go to my law firm website, www.ebitulawgrp.com, and you'll see information about me and other things I'm involved in.
Okay. And thank you so much to our viewers for tuning in for another interesting show today. And if you know anybody in your community making a huge impact, please send us an email at oby234@gmail.com. And always remember that you are responsible for the news that you publish. In a globally connected world, we are responsible for thinking critically and publishing the information, whereby constructively engaging with the world. Thank you so
Indeed.
much, Uduak, and thank you all for watching.
Bye, people.
Bye.
This show has been brought to you in part by KissPix, where photography is innovative, creative, and unexpected.